another thing I really like about Smart Bio Challenge is with IZIP is it's getting you to think about that thing you want to do in the world that you're passionate about. Um, because if you're having fun, if it's something you really believe in and you really want to do, you're going to learn more, you're going to work harder, you're going to be focused on something that's developing the skills you need. And I truly believe the future is one of entrepreneurship. I predict a future where most people have a digital twin of themselves. And the reason for that is we need to get to win-win outcomes more. And short conversations just don't cut it. We have to have an ability to have long conversations with people so that we can actually get to the meat of the issue. And, like this conversation we're having, imagine we did this a million times and chose the best one.
You could come up with the main topics that you could think about, some of the topics in detail, and then everything more broader. And then you can even click and watch the specific segment. Welcome everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Smart Buyer interview series, where we invite partners and special guests to come onto the series and talk about reasons why Smart Bio is a platform that they believe in, a platform that they cooperate together with, and a platform that means a lot. And today we have Jim Spohrer.
Hey, nice to be here, Chona.
Thank you very much for being here. For those of you who are new, Jim Spohrer is a retired IBM executive who played a foundational role in shaping the service science industry, also formerly known as SSMED, if I got that correct, which was a field focused on how people, organizations, and technologies create value together across systems. Right? However, today, he serves as a board of directors of the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals, also known as ISIP, acting as the secretary, treasurer, and ambassador to ACM and IBM Almaden. Recently, Smart Bio was honored to win the ISIP award, which Jim Spohrer will further explain to us what that was all about.
Great. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about uh, our relationship with Smart Bio. I am Jim Spohr. I am a retired executive from IBM most recently. I live in Silicon Valley out here in the Bay Area of California, where I've lived for 35 years. I worked 10 years at Apple as a distinguished engineer and then moved over to IBM, where I spent about almost 25 years working in everything from founding director of their venture capital group to founder of the service research area. You mentioned service science, to leading global university programs where I traveled to, gosh, 45 countries, visiting universities on behalf of IBM. And then the last role I had was leading our open source artificial intelligence work at IBM. And that's partly because I have a PhD in AI from artificial intelligence from Yale University that I got before joining Apple. So I've had a great career and always focused on innovation and focused on helping people get the right skills they need for their future careers. And that's me in a nutshell.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. Well, I like the fact that you've already also mentioned Smart Bio a little bit. Would you mind telling us what exactly inspired you to connect with Smart Bio in the first place?
Sure. Frank Mellis was a former IBMer who contacted us at IZIP and submitted proposals for our annual Excellence Award. So that was one thing. We also ran a number of future skills event with the European Union partners, and Frank's work came up there. And we kind of hit it off because we liked the model that Smart Bio was promoting. It was very entrepreneurial, it was very skills oriented. We took it a step at a time, but we started looking for opportunities to collaborate where it made sense.
Frank has also been somebody that's been bringing a lot of people in, people who are also very heartedly interested in Smart Bio, which would also lead to the next question that I have for you is, once you heard about Smart Bio, what is the potential that you saw that Smart Bio could bring?
The subway diagram, I don't know if all your viewers know about the subway diagram, but the idea that resonates quite a bit with service science is the way things happen in the world is that individuals get skills, but there's individuals in all kinds of stakeholder organizations, not just universities, not just big companies like IBM, not just in government. There's all these pathways that people take through their careers. And at iZip, we're big supporters of what we call T-shaped people, people who have deep skills and broad skills. And so when we saw the Smart Bio model, we invited Frank to be what we call an iZip ambassador, meaning that he would have an opportunity to write blog posts, share his expertise with the community, join panel discussions, basically get the word out about Smart Bio. And through those interactions, we could see the continual progress that Smart Bio is making. And Frank is very good at making proposals about, here's a collaboration opportunity, here's a collaboration opportunity. And iZip has about maybe 2,000 participants worldwide, and all very, very focused on becoming better service innovation professionals. And for your viewers who don't know what service innovation is, you can think about most people know what technology innovation is, which is increasing capabilities, but service innovation also includes new business models, and we also think about the harms that new technologies can create. So not just the benefits, but the harms. And so new institutional arrangements to mitigate those harms. So service innovation is this very all-encompassing idea about getting beyond just pure technological innovation, and includes things like skill development and encouraging entrepreneurship. So we had a pretty good alignment, I would say, from the very beginning on the mission of iZip to promote service innovation in the world, and the mission of Smart Bio to create more entrepreneurial skills that could build the future for people's careers. And I remember one conversation that I had, an interview. If you go out to the iZip YouTube channel, you'll see several interviews with Frank Mellis, by the way. Not just the award-winning ones, but prior to that, there's ones that we had where I remember asking Frank, what do you think about, it's never been easier to start a startup than it is today? And he said, something like, yes, agreed, especially with the AI skills. It's easier to get started in a new venture. But we also discussed the challenges of competition and making a successful startup. So I would encourage people to go out and look at the iZip YouTube and try to understand service innovation. That's really the key. Once you understand iZip and once you understand Smart Bio, you see all sorts of interaction possibilities between the iZip platforms and the Smart Bio platform.
Nice. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, I personally am definitely also going to look deeper into that because I did see certain areas where we link and align. I'm going to slightly take you away from talking about iZip and Smart Bio in detail. And we want our guests to understand you a bit better, right? Because also what we like as Smart Bio is to make or to show people that with whatever you're doing, you need to be passionate about it, right? And that would lead to the question is the partnership that we have with iZip and Smart Bio, how does that help your personal ambitions and your goals as Jim Spohrer?
Working on a couple projects these days that may be of interest to some of your listeners. One is, and I'll just say they're very controversial. So I don't expect everybody will be as passionate about it as I am. In fact, some may even be opposed, but we believe in good conversations. But I'm building an AI digital twin of myself, and I'm turning 70 in 2026, and so I'm getting up in years, and I've written a lot of papers and books over my career, and I'm often asked to give a talk about something that I've written, and on service science or service innovation or various topics. So I speak English, a little bit of French, a little bit of Italian, but my digital twin will be able to give talks in Japanese and has given talks in French and you know, any language. And
Wow.
it's an AI version of myself built up with, you know, I've uploaded all my papers and books and stuff like this, so you can ask it questions and get an avatar that looks like me to respond with a talk and say, you know, most people who hear this talk have these three questions, and then I give responses. And then usually, if I'm online, I will then take real questions. So Jim Reel appears and, you know,
Mm,
interacts with people, of course, and usually in English.
mm,
So because I'm very fascinated with this concept of building AI digital twins of individuals like myself, primarily for mentoring the next generation. I also mentor a lot of students, do a lot of student projects. Again, if you go out to the IZIP website, you'll see that I mentor students from different universities. So given my interest in mentoring students and trying to build that into the IZIP platform, I think that's where I see the relationship with Smart Bio maybe taking off. Maybe some of the students who are working on challenges and projects will be able to incorporate, you know, generative AI, AI digital twins of people into their projects. So I would love to see challenges and solutions and potential startups in that area. So that's what I'll be looking for to excite me about the work the students will be doing.
okay, nice. I mean, I did not expect to hear that answer. So that's actually pretty exciting. How did you come up with this idea, if I may
Um,
elaborate?
well, you'll see Reid Hoffman. He's got a YouTube video out there on his AI digital twin. For people who don't know Reid Hoffman, he is the founder of LinkedIn. Reid Hoffman has created a digital twin of himself. And then you might say, well, gee, what can this twin do? So the next YouTube video is of me giving this similar talk in French. And there is also an open source version of Jim Twin. I've got a student working on building an open source version of Jim Twin that will be on GitHub. So if somebody else wants to start working on building a digital twin of themselves and they know some coding, they can use the open source version. And then there is also a version that's of me that's a chatbot. So let's say you don't care about seeing my lips move and me talking. You can also use the version of Jim Twin that is a chatbot built on a different platform, not the HeyGen platform. If you reach out to me on LinkedIn and just say I'm part of the Smart Bio community, and we can connect on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with people on LinkedIn, and I'll send them my link to Ask My AI answers from me. So that's a way you can just ask my chatbot version of Jim questions.
Amazing, cool. Thanks. Thanks so much for sharing that. Could you tell us about one concrete thing that we're working on together as ISIP and Smart Bio?
Well, I think you already did an interview with Michelle Carroll, who's our executive director. And uh, in addition to Smart Bio winning the overall excellence award, so there's some videos out there on our website about that.
Yeah.
We have awards in different categories. There is a big project with South Africa that has been kicked off where um, students will have a challenge they can work on and submit responses to that challenge that can win IZIP awards. And that's once you're a participant in the IZIP community, we believe in give, get, grow. So you give, you get, and you grow. And usually it's growing your network on LinkedIn. Most of the IZIP participants are trying to build up their global network to innovators around the world. You know, connect with me, and you've got a connection now in Silicon Valley, California, right? So And then we have participants all over the world doing innovation leaders. We have everyone from students to mid-career professionals to retirees like myself now. But I think the main thing that we're working on together that I'm really excited about is this challenge project. And again, there's material on the website about that.
Cool. Nice. Thanks. And we're definitely gonna keep pushing for that challenge to happen. What kind of impact are you hoping that this partnership would have on, the community, the partners that we're working with, and just people around us?
Well, you say you believe in passion, and what I'm passionate about is IZIP has been around 12, 13 years now. And I remember when we started IZIP, there were students involved in IZIP, and now some of them are like the vice president of a rocket fleet company, pushing
Wow.
the envelope. So I've
Yeah.
seen this development from student to, up to executives in companies, and I've even seen some students launch successful startups. And it's interesting because some of them had the path. They were a student, they did a very successful app, they made some money, and now they're because they've got their money needs taken care of, they're going into music and art and other things. So to me, seeing all those career journeys, some people get stuck and stay in a particular thing and then they figure it out, and others have a more meteoric rise. Others
Yeah.
go for big companies. So for me, I would say what I get out of this personally is just as a 70-year-old executive, I've mentored a lot of people, I've managed a lot of people in my career, and just the helping people with that give, get, grow, because that's how you grow. Is
Yeah.
you have to give something, you have to have an idea, you have to have a passion, you have to have something that you want to do in the world. And if you work on that, and you give it to the world, then you start getting back things. It may not always be the thing you originally intended, but you do get things back. You get feedback, you get new connections, you get new insights, and that give, get, grow, which new participants in IZIP are invited to a quarterly welcome event. Vishali Main, one of our volunteers, runs that, and she runs the Give, Get, Grow meetings. She has a new book out. That's another thing. Some participants come into the IZIP community and say, I've always wanted to do a book. Well, we have a business expert press partnership, and we've helped many people write their first book. And yeah, it's that I like to see. So I'm hoping some of the people who are participating on the Smart Bio platform, who are also participating in the IZIP community, they can win some of our digital certificates for recognition that they can put on their LinkedIn profile. Hoping that they can grow their network, and I'm hoping I can watch their careers develop. And especially those who are building things related to digital twins, AI digital twins. I'm going to have a special interest in those because
Yeah.
I believe strongly that, one of the biggest failures, I think, of service science so far is that we haven't been able to help people get to win-win enough. And, some interactions are win-win, some interactions are win-lose. Lose-lose is like war. We really don't like that.
Yeah.
But try to, help people understand how to get to win-win. And that's still very hard. And one of the reasons why people can't get to win-win is they don't talk to each other long enough.
Hmm.
Because life is short, and you can only have, like, let's say you've got an hour to negotiate an important deal. An
Yeah.
hour to negotiate an important deal? That's so small.
Yeah.
So you prepare, you come in and you learn how to make a good pitch, and how to make it impactful, but you still only have an hour. Well, what if you had 100 hours? What if you had like 1,000 hours? This is what your AI digital twins can do. Because if you've got two entities with AI digital twins, as the marginal cost of computing goes to zero, those digital twins can have 100 years of conversation computed. And the best aspects of those conversations, the win win aspects of those conversations, can be what the real people then end up doing. So imagine going to sleep at night, and Chano, you and I both have digital twins. And in the morning when we wake up, there's 10 ideas about things we can collaborate on, win win collaborations we could do that are really good. And
That
that's because our digital twins had 100 years of conversations while we were sleeping.
yeah, I mean that would blow my mind, and that's something that I think we should all definitely keep in mind. But before I forget my idea, I just kind of wanted to come back to your point about mentoring.
Hmm.
And I'd like to look at this from both perspectives, if you're
Sure.
okay with that. A lot of the Let's talk about students who are starting. We'll come to entrepreneurs a little bit later, but students who are just getting into the corporate world or thinking of getting into the corporate world, a lot of them have complained that they find it hard to get into the corporate world because they feel like there's still something missing. You know, once they graduate from university and get into corporate world, they feel like there's something in the middle missing. Is What advice would you give them, or what can ISIP offer for people who are stuck in that in between?
Yeah, it's hard work to get into a corporate world because, for example, when I was at IBM, I would get for every job opening I would post, there would be 200 to 500 applications.
Right.
So that can be discouraging. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard work, but this is what I recommend. I was in a meeting one time at IBM and I looked around the room
Right.
and I realized no one in that room had interviewed for a job at IBM, but they were all IBM employees. How did that happen? Their companies were acquired by IBM. So there's like knocking on the front door, interview me for this job opening at IBM, and then there's coming in through an acquisition. So I would say if you want a job in IBM, let's take IBM, or Google, or NVIDIA, or wherever, pick a company you want to work for. Have you done your homework? Have you gone out and looked at what companies that IBM has acquired in the last 6 months or 6 years? Have you looked at what companies NVIDIA has acquired? If you haven't done your homework, why do you expect a job's going to fall off the tree? If you start doing your homework, you start studying, here are the companies they're acquiring. What other company in that space might they acquire? I think I'm going to apply not to IBM or NVIDIA or Google. I'm going to start applying to some of these companies they might acquire. And then that's like a play. It's like coming around the corner. Now, how do I get a job at a startup? Well, it's easier to get a job at a startup than it is at IBM or a Google or an NVIDIA, I'll tell you that, or an Apple. So start thinking about this strategically. And I think this is one of the things I liked about that smart bio subway diagram is it looked at like lots of the different stakeholders, not just the big players, the little players, the government players. And so how do you get that experience? Because
Yeah.
it's easier to be hired into a big company when you have experience. So how do you
Yeah.
get that first experience? Well,
Right.
often you have to get it through a startup or some government agency that you work for or some nonprofit that you work for. Um, volunteering for a nonprofit is a great way to get some experience that you can put on your LinkedIn profile, especially when it comes with digital certifications and stuff like ISIP provides. So you have to think of it in terms of a multi-step journey and be strategic. And another thing I really like about Smart Bio Challenge is with ISIP is it's getting you to think about that thing you want to do in the world that you're passionate about. Because if you're having fun, if it's something you really believe in and you really want to do, you're going to learn more, you're going to work harder, you're going to be focused on something that's developing the skills you need. And I truly believe the future is one of entrepreneurship. I think working for big companies is like I did. I worked for Apple and IBM, but truth be told, my first job out of MIT, where I had a physics degree, was at a startup speech recognition company. I was employee number 60. I was employee number 60, and we were doing mathematical modeling of speech and language in the 1970s. So my first job, I was so lucky to get that job. And when I got that job, I just worked and worked and worked, and I learned all kinds of stuff. All of a sudden, a lot of the courses that I was taking in university that I got okay grades, but it was like I didn't really feel like I fully understood it. All of a sudden, working in a job, applying my physics and mathematics and other skills, it was like computer science. It was like, oh my gosh, I really understand this stuff now. And that's what allowed me to um, then go to graduate school at Yale in computer science and artificial intelligence. And then I had enough publications and enough experience, and I was working on cool new things that Apple snatched me up and wanted me to work at Apple in their advanced technology group. So that's my journey. It's not like instant success. It's like hard work at various stages, being smart, and I've been very lucky that once I got enough momentum, enough success under my belt, I was always able to find my next job. And how did I do that? What I did is I always would talk to executives about the problems they were facing. So I would say, get a 15-minute interview with the head of some business unit, and I would say, what's the biggest challenge your business unit is facing? And they'll tell you, if you're inside the company, they'll tell you. And then sometimes that challenge they're facing resonates with you. And then you say, who can tell me more about this challenge? Who's working on this challenge? And sometimes the executives say, well, really, nobody's working on it because, we've got this day-to-day operation stuff. So nobody's working on this. But this is something we got to think about for the future. And that's what I would focus my energy on. I would start, if it resonated with me, I'd say, I'm going to figure out a solution to that problem. I'm going to talk to everybody in the company. I'm going to come up with some proposals. And then the next time I meet with that executive, I'm going to say, have you considered these things? And sometimes they say, yes, we considered that. We can't do that. Yes, we considered that. We can't do that. Wait, that's an interesting idea right there. And then they say, hey, why don't you come work for me in my group and start developing that idea? And that's how you kind of build your trajectory through your career. And again, this is the stuff I'm putting in Jim Twin, so people can have long conversations with Jim Twin, because my time is limited. I'm retired, and, but I'm hoping to pack all of these experiences and stories and stuff like that into a digital version of myself, an AI digital twin, who can give talks in any language, who can mentor multiple students. That's why I'm excited about building an AI digital twin of myself. And I can see, some of the students in the smart bio community taking a look at this digital twin stuff and saying, hey, this is an area that's going to be important for the future. Maybe I'll work on this. I've even seen presidents of universities. San Jose State University out here has their president has created a digital twin of herself to be part of this leading edge initiative. And I predict a future where most people have a digital twin of themselves. And the reason for that is we need to get to win-win outcomes more. And short conversations just don't cut it. We have to have an ability to have long conversations with people so that we can actually get to the meat of the issue. And, like this conversation we're having, imagine we did this 1,000,000 times and chose the best one. Wow. That's the power of the digital twin. And maybe we could just watch it, right? We could just watch the digital twins do that talk, and then we could have the real conversation, but based on our experience of the top 3 or 5 digital conversations.
Yeah, maybe we could even, get a nice summary of all the important parts,
Yep.
especially with the way AI is developing. It could come up with the main topics that you could think about, some of the topics in detail, and then everything more broader. And then, you can even click and watch the specific segments. And I mean, it sounds like the direction in which we should be going right now already. I mean, this is amazing stuff. Thank you so much.